Hi, everybody, and welcome to Final Play Sports Rap. I'm your host, Pete Lubar, and today we're going through the Mountain West Wrap Up, a wrap up of last week's games, week 4 of the NCAA football season, and looking forward to what's going on in week 5. Thank you for taking a part of your day to listen to me. There were 9 games in the Mountain West last weekend, and for the second week in a row, a double-digit Mountain West underdog beat a P4 school as San Diego laid the wood against Cal, beating the Bears 34-0. This game was really more about how bad Cal played rather than how great San Diego State played. San Diego State had 321 yards total offense, which is modest for a D1 college football program. They were 3 for 15 on third down, but Cal had 3 turnovers, including a fumble recovery for a TD. They had a missed field goal. They had 6 penalties, and they had 6 sacks. You're just not going to win many games with 3 turnovers, 6 penalties, and 6 sacks. So, good win for San Diego State. UNLV remained undefeated, squeaking by Miami of Ohio 41-38. Miami jumped out to an early 17-point lead, and after an early UNLV interception, but then the Rebels dominated the fourth period, causing multiple turnovers by the Redhawks. UNLV racked up 513 yards of total offense and dominated the time of possession 38 minutes to 22 minutes in the win. Anthony Calandrea was 29 for 43 for 293 yards, 2 TDs, and 2 interceptions. And he also rushed for 16 times for 54 yards. There were 2 conference games on Saturday. Boise beat up Air Force in Colorado Springs 49-37. Maddox Madsen of Boise State quarterback had 276 yards and 2 TDs on 13 completions. Dylan Riley had a breakout game, running for 171 yards and 4 TDs on 19 carries. So that's pretty good. And Air Force quarterback Liam Sadarka had 100 rushing yards, 247 yards passing, 2 TDs, and 1 interception. Apparently, he only looks for Cade Harris. Cade Harris was either open all day or somehow was left open, but he grabbed 8 passes for 177 yards. So of the 247 that Liam Sarka had, all but 70 went to Cade Harris. So interesting that Air Force would even be throwing the ball that much. That is not Air Force football, and nevertheless they lost. The other Mountain West game featured Fresno State and Hawaii. Fresno State won a close one, 23-21. Fresno State safety in the second period was the difference in the score. The stats for both teams were pretty even. 3 interceptions by Michael Alejandro, who was coming off of injury, was the difference in the game. So Hawaii loses. There were 5 other conference games, and the Mountain West fared with mixed results. San Jose State got by Idaho 31-28, as Jabari Bates had 11 carries for 131 yards and 1 TD. And Danny Scudero had 6 catches for 130 for San Jose State. Nevada lost on the road to Western Kentucky. Nevada is not good. They look just like last year. The game started out okay for Nevada. They grabbed a 10-3 lead at half, but the game was sloppy for both teams, with 3 turnovers for the Wolfpack and 2 for the Hilltoppers. There were 34 penalties between the teams. Just not a really good game. Nevada needs to make a change, I think, at leadership. Utah State continued their out-of-conference Patsy schedule by beating McNeese State 48-7. Bryson Barnes had another solid game. He's a dual-threat quarterback, but once again was against a lesser opponent. He had 293 yards and 3 TDs. He also had 13 carries for 128 yards and 2 TDs. CSU dropped a game to University of Texas San Antonio in a game with a sort of curious call. CSU was losing 17-0 before mounting a comeback. They scored 2 TDs in the fourth quarter, the last one with 29 seconds to go to make the score 17-16. Rather than kick the chip shot extra point and put the game into overtime, they had the momentum. Jay Novell elected to go for 2. The play was unsuccessful, and they take the loss. It reminded me of the Lions-Ravens game last night, Monday night. The Ravens were down 2 touchdowns, but they scored a touchdown. They were down 8 points, and rather than go for the extra point, which would have made it a 7-point game, they decided to go for 2. They did not make it. It kept it an 8-point game. I just thought that was a curious call because a 7-point game, then if you score, you've got options. You can either kick or you could then try and go for it. But when you're down 8, you have to go for it, and it's a much harder play. Now, I understand what they were thinking. What they're thinking is if we get 8, we get the 2-point conversion, then we're only down 6. And if we score another touchdown, then we win the game. So I can see both sides of that. But typically, if you can get the game to an overtime, that's probably a better situation, particularly if you've been kind of losing all day. And for CSU in particular, boy, you feel like they now had all that momentum, and they probably would have scored and won that game, especially at home. So a little curious. Finally, Caden Salter of the CU Buffaloes beat the Wyoming Cowboys 37-20. CU got up 28-3 early in the third and coasted to the victory. The Cowboys had 7 penalties for 80 yards, so a sloppy game for the Cowboys, and they take the loss. They're 2-2 on the season. The Week 5 games coming up. We got one. Looks like 7 games this one. Rivalry game, New Mexico State is traveling to Albuquerque to play New Mexico. Both teams 2-1. I think that's the first time in 50 years that both teams have a winning record going into the game. New Mexico is a 13.5-point favorite. My experience with this particular rivalry game is that it ends up being close. My guess is it'll be something like 28-22 or 30-22. New Mexico will win, but if you were so inclined, I'd probably pass on this game, but if you were so inclined, you might take New Mexico State and the points. Utah State is traveling to Vanderbilt, and so they're going to play a ranked team for the first time this year. They are 22.5-point dogs. It would not surprise me in the slightest if Vanderbilt beat them by 22.5. Although I said the same thing about when they played Texas A&M, and they were able to cover against Texas A&M. So buyer beware on that one. San Diego State travels to Northern Illinois. They are a 2.5-point favorite. Boy, I wish I knew more about San Diego State. It's I did like that they won last week. I just don't think that I don't think they played really that great. I don't really know what's going on with Northern Illinois. So that should be a fairly tight game. Would not surprise me if Northern Illinois won that game. Hawaii at Air Force. Air Force is a 6.5-point favorite. I would say that Air Force will probably win that game, probably by a touchdown, so that's probably pretty close. Washington State, who has been terrible lately, travels to Colorado State in a matchup of future Pac 8.5 teams. I'm not sure who will win this game. Colorado State does not really look good. They're a 4.5-point dog. It would not surprise me if Washington State won this game. San Jose travels to Stanford. They are a 2.5-point dog. Boy, I really hate Stanford. I think they're terrible. It would not surprise me if San Jose State won this game, so I'm going to pick them. Stanford just hasn't looked good all year. And then we got Appalachian State traveling to Boise. They are 16.5-point dogs. I would take Boise and give the points. And then you've got Fresno State, Wyoming, and Nevada all on bye. So that is the schedule for next week. And that wraps up my show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube page. It costs you nothing, but it helps me out. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day. Bye.